Okay, we want to break in to tell you that the New York Daily News and the New York Times now report that Harvey Weinstein is set to turn himself in tomorrow on sex crime charges in New York. Prosecutors in New York have been questioning people to find out if Weinstein lured women across state lines for the purpose of having sex with them. Joining me now by phone is CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman. Rikki, good to talk to you. With all these things, with Weinstein and with these other men accused of these crimes, they've been hard to corroborate, hard to get hard evidence for, hard to prosecute. What do you make of this development in this case?
Well, the state grand jury in Manhattan under District Attorney Cy Vance has been looking into a variety of cases for quite some time now. And there was a lot of complaints that New York County, which is Manhattan, was working too slowly. And we were talking in the studio this morning precisely about the federal government getting involved in the case. And ultimately, the issue is really be patient. That these things take time because although the NYPD, just like the LAPD, thought long and long ago that Harvey should be indicted, is that you may have enough evidence to believe that he did something or to suspect that he did something, but a prosecutor like Cy Vance really waits until he believes that he has the right evidence to be able to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. And he's had a grand jury under a very capable prosecutor sitting. So it sounds like, since we don't know which case or cases are going to be the subject of the arrest, but it certainly sounds like at least one of these cases in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has come to fruition. I don't think we should be surprised. I think they have worked very hard, and being impatient with the DA was perhaps a very wrong tact for the public to take.
And does him turning himself in indicate that a grand jury has issued an indictment?
I can only say this because I don't want to assume what I don't know. But I will assume that since a grand jury has been sitting on this case, that the logic is that this is a grand jury indictment rather than charges simply being presented by the prosecutor. But nevertheless, whichever way it is, there's obviously been an arrangement made between the district attorney's office and Ben Brafman on behalf of Mr. Weinstein to be able to have him turn himself in, or at least that's the news that we're getting now. And always remember that the first story is never the last story.
In this Me Too movement, we've seen scores of men accused. Many lose their livelihoods, hardly any see jail time. What is the significance of legal proceedings against the person that started all this in Harvey Weinstein?
Well, if you look at Harvey Weinstein, as I would say the second big case, but the first really big criminal case since Me Too, since Bill Cosby's case was before Me Too was in full form, that we don't know if he is being charged with rape or what we would call sexual assault as a Class B felony, the highest degree, or with something less. So it certainly is going to depend on which case or cases the New York County District Attorney has decided to go forward on. And then, of course, if it does come to a trial, since through his lawyers, Harvey Weinstein has consistently said that no encounter that he had involving sex was anything other than consensual, will this, in fact, be a trial or at some point a plea to something less? Keep in mind that New York, like where Bill Cosby was tried in Pennsylvania, that you have the same type of ruling as you would in the federal court, where there could be in the discretion of the judge, evidence of what we call uncharged misconduct or prior bad acts. And what that means is, in order to bolster the accusation of an alleged victim, that it is possible that the judge, in his or her discretion, will allow the testimony of other accusers if the acts are sufficiently similar to constitute a common scheme or plan, an MO, as we would call it in the business, or a signature, as they were with Bill Cosby. In any event, when you get to someone who has been accused by as many women, as Harvey Weinstein, you certainly are looking at someone who may be facing substantial jail time.
Last thing, next steps. He turns himself in Friday, and then what happens?
Well, I assume that it will go according to the normal plan, which is that they would go to court. A plea of not guilty would be entered. He would be arraigned on whatever charges, that is, apprised of the charges, and bail would be set. He is obviously, if he is allowed to turn himself in and comes forth, that he does not probably not represent any kind of flight risk. So it would be a substantial bail, but he would likely be allowed to remain on bail pending a trial, perhaps with an electronic bracelet. And then we go through the natural proceedings, which would mean various status conferences, motion hearings, and ultimately a trial or a plea. These things are never fast enough for the public. They take a very long time.
Okay, well, Rikki Klieman, thanks for sharing your time today.
All right. Thank you for having me.